Hi everyone, welcome back to the Stars and Startups podcast with me, Varun Bumini. This is the podcast where we get up close and personal with interesting founders and doers from the Indian startup ecosystem. On the podcast, we hear illuminating stories of entrepreneurship and the journey of building businesses. On episode 32, we chat with Akash Dongre, the CPO and co-founder at Indus OS, the creator of the largest app store outside of the Play Store with over 100 million users and thousands of apps created for the vernacular audience. They currently power the App Store on many of Samsung phones and have been through quite the journey from starting up to meandering their way to a vernacular mobile device manufacturer to a vernacular operating system for other OEMs. As always, I really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channels wherever you're consuming this podcast and share the episode with others if you liked it. Enjoy the show. Hi Akash, welcome to the show.
Hi Varun, thanks for inviting me. I'm really glad that I could finally speak to you, on this podcast after talking to you, I think ages ago now. So
Yeah,
really excited to be on the show.
no, I'm glad we could make this happen. There's you've spent so much time in the mobile space, pre-smartphone era as well. There's a lot that I've been wanting to ask you on this podcast, so I couldn't have been more excited to have you on the program. Um, Akash, you're the current CPO and co-founder at Indus OS, and Indus OS was not always Indus OS when you started way back in 2007 on your entrepreneurial journey, right? Um, right out of you graduated from the IIT and you took a couple of years to work, and then you started on your first uh, product project in 2007. Did you always have this itch to go and start something?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in IIT, this was 2001 to 2005. That was, one of the early days of entrepreneurship in India, where people were talking about building companies, people were talking about entrepreneurship. This was the time when the dot-com boom happened in US, and then it busted. But people knew that there is potential, in starting up companies. And when I was in IT, most people actually chose to go to US or join the core sectors.
Yeah.
But I somehow got involved with entrepreneurship cell in IIT Bombay. Started talking to a lot of entrepreneurs. Started talking to the ecosystem, and right from the IIT days, I was clear that I will start my own company. And at that point of time, it was very clear that starting the company right after uh, campus was not an option. At least in those days, it was completely unheard of. So what I did was, instead of joining a software company where I was placed as part of my campus placement, I chose to join a small startup, which was an American startup. It was trying to build a team here in India, and five of us were literally grabbed from IT Bombay, and I thought that that was a very exciting opportunity because it was a startup working in the mobile space and the gaming space. So I started my career with this company called Octane Mobiles.
Hmm.
And it was a very small setup, just five people, core team. We started working on developing tools to port mobile games. So that is
Oh
how my
wow.
journey started.
Tell
And
me something, Akash. I'm curious. You're talking about mobile games in 2005 or six. I only remember having my trusty Nokia. Uh, I don't know if it was 6610. I probably graduated to the Engage. I remember having a Nokia Engage at that time, and for me that was the gaming phone, right? Uh,
yeah,
you were building for that, the Symbian
yes.
OS.
So yeah, I mean, and we were lucky to work with big publishers in US. So I worked with Namco, I worked with Infogames. We created, I mean, I was part of the team which ported Prince of Persia across different handset mobiles. So this was a time when there was not a single platform which in which you create an application and will work on all the phones. Every phone had its own challenges, and the memory which we are talking about was as small as 64 kb. So in the 64 kb memory which the phone had,
Yeah.
we so the development style was very different. You have to optimize for each and every pixel. So I started my career obviously as a software developer. Was always interested in programming right from my childhood. Luckily my parents supported me in that, and even though during IIT days I was not a coder, I was not doing any coding except in the first year computer course. But I really like this concept of mobile games at that point of time, and I always thought that there's a lot of potential in mobile as industry.
Hmm.
So that is how that journey started.
Were you a gamer?
Uh, I mean, casual gamer is what we can say. But
Hmm.
when you develop these games, a majority of time actually goes into testing them. And you can
Uh,
imagine, so I had high scores in games like Pac-Man, Pac-Pinball. Some of these games were ported by me, right from scratch. And then we also developed some very early multiplayer casino games.
hmm.
And so multiplayer casino games. So that is when I started playing, poker and
Yeah.
all of those things.
So wait, Pac-Man was one of the biggest Namco hits, right? I still remember that
Yeah.
was uh, that was a bumper hit. Did you
It's,
guys
it's
port
a,
it?
No, so what Namco did was Namco kept on creating games around Pac-Man theme. So there was obviously the legendary Pac-Man, but then they kept on creating a lot of games on the same theme. So there was Miss Pac-Man, this
Yeah, I was
Pac-Man,
just gonna say there was
Pac-Man.
gonna be that she Pac-Man or whatever they had.
Yes. And so, the challenge at that point of time was if you actually create a game, uh, and the gaming industry, I was just introduced to it. The way it works in US is it works like, if I have to give a parallel, it works like a movie production. So there's I mean, they call studios. They produce the game with storylines. Everything is, I'm sure that has evolved now to an extent where they're, and we all know now gaming companies or gaming studios are much bigger than movie studios. But yeah, so that was my experience. And uh, what the challenge was, they used to pick up some popular devices in US,
Hmm.
just to create games for them. And then there was a lot of technical tasks to be done to make these games work on all devices, all Nokia devices, Siemens devices, Samsung devices. There were a lot of devices, and all of them are small screen, big screen. So depending on screens also, you have to change the game. And what we were trying to do was, we were not just doing the porting work, we were trying to create a platform to port. So the product which we were actually building was, a product which will automate this process.
So how did that translate to MoFirst, which was your mobile payments company? Did you see like an opportunity back then, and you said, "Hey, I want to go and solve this. Let me go talk to some friends who may want to do this with me."
Yes, so I mean, while I started working here, as I said, I always wanted to start something of my own. And so I started, so your friends, your roommates, you start, discussing product ideas. And so in 2006, I met Rakesh. So I mean, I knew Rakesh from IT days, but in 2006, we basically met and started discussing this mobile payments product idea. And Rakesh was at that point of time, had this idea where he said, this is the high level concept which I have. Let's build this. It's going to be a massive opportunity in future. And I was instantly sold on that idea. And we started working we straight away got into the programming aspects of it. And Rakesh was building a team. That was a time when Sudhir was still in IIT, and so three of us we started working from either my flat or or Sudhir's hostel room. And in 2007, and Rakesh was also working with another mobile software startup.
Okay.
It was later acquired by On Mobile, but so he was also in the similar space, and both of us wanted to start. And in November 2007, I guess, November 2007, both of us said that if we have to do this, we have to do it full time. And that is when me and Rakesh, both of us, quit our jobs and started working on this full time. And Sudhir joined us later in 2008. So the initial days of our entrepreneurial journey, we didn't register any company. We were just focused towards building this product. We wanted to demonstrate the end-to-end payment cycle, with we doing transaction from one device to another, and the pipeline which we used was the card pipeline which was available at that point of time. So, and there were a lot of challenges, but essentially we wanted to establish that one of the devices can be a merchant, one of the devices can be a issuer card, and then the entire cycle can be done. And if that pipeline or if the entire transaction works, the same case can be then replicated to uh, from P2P M, and so you can, I mean, just like what is happening right now with Paytm, where you can just go and scan a QR code from any merchant. That was the idea. We also thought that the same can be used also, at a bank where you can just go. And the idea was to not have a static QR code at that point of time. We thought uh, generating a QR code dynamically with a lot of elements around what time it is, what transaction amount, who is the individual, will make it more secure. So yeah, so 2007 we started working on this, and by 2008 we had our first working prototype, and we started talking to a lot of investors. We're talking to RBI, because RBI was at that point of time working on a mobile payments policy. So we were actually part of that policy discussion. Uh, we were talking to a lot of professors from IIT, uh,
Okay.
Professor UB Dixit from IIT Bombay, Professor Junjunwala from IIT Madras, because the product which what we thought was, we have to give a trust to consumers as well as to banks that this is a secure product.
Right.
And security of the product was basically around the encryption system which we created specifically for doing these transactions. There was no standard at that point of time, so
Hmm.
we were trying to create that standard. And we got a lot of positive feedback from these professors. And then that was the time when we started talking to banks, and banks loved it. So yeah, so that was the initial journey of how we started with our entrepreneurial journey.
I'm curious. I mean, you were working on these really blockbuster games and porting it to mobile, etc. Uh, and if I remember correctly, games were popular back then as well. I mean, they were just in a different form, either in a cartridge, uh, on the desktop. I remember a lot of my friends. I mean, I used to play Counter Strike, and that's what we did in college. And you must have been seeing the revolution, right? People moving to games, and you were on like kind of the ground floor of that kind of opportunity. Um, why didn't you think, hey, I'm going to do gaming? Because I would imagine payments is completely new, that it's nowhere in kind of your vicinity, things that you've seen. And there seems to be also adoption issues, right? Because, of course, you're saying that you're creating policy for payments. Um, why choose a hard path when you already knew that there was something that really worked?
Yeah, we started with the idea that mobile is going to go huge. And I mean, the reason I joined this company Octane was because I believed in the power of mobile, and how it will transform the digital ecosystem. That was the idea. And even though gaming was very, uh, the experience of working in that company gave me a lot of skills to develop applications on. So we are talking about 2005, 2006. Uh, People at that point of time, considered to be a smartphone.
Yeah.
So, we knew that this is just the early phase of smartphones, and luckily in 2007, Apple launched iPhone, changed how people started perceiving smartphones, and we knew that this is going to change. Even though our mobile payment product was designed for India, we knew India's challenges are very different. The network connectivity, the devices, you know kind of users we have, their digital literacy, all of those things are very different. But we knew it's going to grow very fast. It's going to change the way we transact, and that has happened. It took time, but that has happened now. I think we were maybe 10 years earlier in the game. Not
Yeah,
10, but at least 7 to 8 years earlier in the game.
that's right. Yeah. Well, but that's a timing is everything, right? You need to have product and timing fit sometimes for things to really pan out. Uh, I mean, back then when you were building for mobile, also you had technically at that time you had smartphones, which was the Nokia, I think 6600, and there was also the Palm itself, and a lot of people had built a lot of products for the Palm OS at that point. So Indus has gone through a lot of pivots over the time that you've, well, now it's called Indus. It was also called something else prior. Uh,
Yeah.
and most recently you've got a pretty sizable investment from Apple.
As I mentioned, early 2008, we had our product working. We were getting from banks. We were talking to banks. We were doing POCs with banks. They wanted to launch this product out in the market, but there was no regulatory framework. And to get the product out, it was very difficult. So at that point of time, we decided that we have to we have to park the IP and grow as a company, keep focusing on something next. 2008 was also a time when the financial market crashed, and the
Yeah,
environment was gloomy. But we saw the opportunity that smartphones are growing. They are different because 2007 iPhone was launched, 2008 Android was launched. Let's start focusing on these platforms. BlackBerry was doing good, Palm OS was there. So at that point of time, we pivoted to become a services company. We did that business for close to 4 to 5 years. But very early in 2013, we started feeling that there's a massive opportunity for building something for India. And even when we were working as a services company, we were actually working with a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses products. So our mentality, when we were doing these projects, was a very product centric mentality. We helped a lot of startups raise funds by creating their initial products to, in fact, maintaining these products to a level where they could acquire more than 10 million users. And we were not only involved in just the development part. We were not just the engineering arm of the startups. We were also involved in the conceptualization part of it, which is where I, from being a programmer to someone who used to manage the project to someone who started working as a product manager during that phase of my career. uh, so in 2013 we were very clear that India will have a smartphone revolution. Even though smartphone were available in 2013, we knew that there's a massive market which is still untapped. And if you if you look at the numbers, 90% of Indians, do not speak in English or prefer their Indian languages. And almost 90% of people, and I'm talking about 2013, that is the number, never interacted with a digital device.
Right.
So that opportunity was massive, and so we started building for that. And the idea was to create a smartphone OS. And over a period of time, that changed.
This was in 2013, where I believe Android had just launched their Gen Y or some small mobile, which was, I think, the cheapest of the Android range from Samsung. Was that the proliferation of mobiles being kind of accessed by a larger audience, which was where your insight came from?
No, I think it was too early. See, everyone was trying to solve for the next billion users. Uh, we knew that India's internet ecosystem will grow, and the startups which we were seeing in 2012 2013 timeframe were only serving the top 10% of Indian consumers.
Right.
So people like you and me, you were building Jabong. Uh, we were trying to create applications for all the startups in India as well as in US. Everyone was talking about building an app. We realized that a lot of people are building the app, but the next part of the user acquisition will require creating products for Bharat. And that is when we said that the ecosystem which is currently in English
Yeah.
needs to change, and the ecosystem is actually built for the the top 10% of the Indian smartphone users. And the products which we are using were also globally created. Like, for example, a smartphone version which is launched in India
Right.
is designed for someone who lives in US or someone who lives in Shanghai.
Yes.
Right? Nobody is thinking about Surat or Satara, because the person living in Surat and Satara and his ambitions and his aspirations are very different from someone who lives in a San Francisco. So that was the idea, and a lot of people who were building products for India were not even in India. They didn't. I mean, it was all hearsay. So we said that we have to actually spend some time, because we spend a lot of time talking to customers, and before we started working on this, uh, we decided to basically sort of close our services business. We spent almost 6 months just doing research, talking to people, understanding their challenges, uh, and that is when we said that India needs Indian smartphone ecosystem, which means that why I'm saying that is, even though we wanted to build a regional keyboard, easy to use experience, a regional app store, those are the ideas which were coming up. But then we said that if you look at the product, or the product hypothesis at that point of time was, our users do not know English. Our users do not know how to use a smartphone. They haven't even used a feature phone in most cases.
Right.
So for them who do not know how to use a smartphone, who do not know how to read something in English, how will they start using a smartphone which is given to them? So we wanted to build for that. And then one of the null hypothesis was that user doesn't know anything, and he will not care about what application we create, right? So we said the only way we can solve this problem is by giving them a phone which is made in their language, where everything is actually part of the experience which we are giving to them, right out of the box.
Right.
And that is why we decided to, instead of creating an OS or launching few apps, we said let's basically put the OS on a device. And we started as a handset company which was creating regional handsets. So
Wait, you
that is
you
how
were
we started.
actually building handsets? You had started off building
Yes,
handsets in
yes,
2013?
yes. So when we started working on this, we said the only way our customers, our target customers, will use the products which we are trying to create is when they get that product, as a handset device. Which means that we were
Right.
talking about creating a operating system which is regional, and this operating system will go on a handset, which will give a complete out of the box experience to the user
Hmm.
in his own language. And that is how First Touch was born. It was a different company we registered, um, and we chose Gujarat as our first market. We said we have to first test this hypothesis that people will buy and use a handset which is in their own language. Uh, and we chose Gujarat, and within Gujarat also the rural part of Gujarat, which is Saurashtra, Rajkot as its base. We chose 10 districts around Rajkot, and we started selling. And the software and the firmware was created by us. We got it manufactured in China, and we just went in the market with 5,000 devices. We worked with a local distributor and sold phones through small shops, not any digital platform, because we wanted to reach out to the right customer. And then there was very minimal marketing which was done, which is in-store marketing around posters, uh, and some basic local newspaper, ads, so that customer is aware that and distributors are aware that there's a new brand which is out in the market. And the phone was designed in a way that the box itself was localized, which means that the box said that it's India's first Gujarati smartphone. So Bhartono Pehlo Gujarati smartphone. And when you open the box, the guides are in Gujarati. Every single thing on the phone is Gujarati, and when you turn it on, it will, the default language is Gujarati. You can always shift to English, but the default language was Gujarati. And we realized that 80% of our users continued to use the phone in Gujarati, and continued to use the phone in the experience in which we gave. So what we did was we created a complete simplified experience for early smartphone users. We created the entire phone in Gujarati language. We
Hmm.
created a Gujarati keyboard. We created a Gujarati app store with Gujarati applications. So we worked with a lot of local app developers. Got the content which was hyper local, and so we got all of them. The messaging application was in Gujarati. Even the calculator was in Gujarati. The numbers, number pad, everything was
Oh,
Gujarati.
wow.
And people just loved that concept. There was a lot of word of mouth which happened around the product. We were able to sell these devices. It was priced slightly above the
Was it a
regular
premium?
entry point smartphones. Yeah, I mean it was an entry level device at that point of time. 4 GB memory. No, sorry, 1 GB memory, 4-inch screen, and it was slightly 200 rupee more than a comparable Micromax device, and around the same pricing of a entry level Samsung device. And we were able to outsell some of these Indian handset OEMs, and there was a lot of buzz in the at least local market that there is this new handset company which is selling more handset devices. So yeah, that is how we started our journey, and we realized that there is definitely a good demand for this product.
Hmm.
But continuing to work as a handset company will mean that we will have to compete with everyone from Samsung to all the Chinese handset companies to all the Indian handset companies. And our core was software. So at that point of time, we said let's focus on
Hmm.
building a OS company, and that is how then the whole concept of Indus came up, where
Okay.
we said let's create Indus, and then let's start talking to Indian handset companies.
What's incredible is that at that time in 2014 or so, there were hundreds of local OEMs. Basically, went to China, bought a phone from the factory, put their branding on it, and they started selling locally. I remember this clearly because just after Jabong in 2013, I started a company called Giptology. And, it was probably one of the first few Android apps also on the App Store. And I was trying to figure out how do I get more adoption, right? Said, okay, you know what? Uh, a big way to kind of push apps in those days, also because Play Store was not that popular, was saying, okay, can you go and get it installed by the guy who's selling the dealer himself.
Yes, reloading. Yeah.
Preloading was the concept, and I think you paid a couple of rupees per install or something like that. So you want it on 100,000 devices, you just pay a couple of lakhs, right? That was the I remember speaking to players like Lava, Carbon, Lemon Mobile. There were a lot of
Yes.
really funky names. I still remember in 2013.
And all of these later became our partners. All of these companies later became our partner because in 2015, this was the handset market. We knew
Mm.
that almost everyone who has funds wanted to bet on the India smartphone ecosystem, and it was easy to go to China, pick a handset, put your logo on it, and launch a phone in India. Uh, when we actually went to China to talk to handset companies, it was very difficult for us to convince them to put our OS because they have a very set mechanism where they were just a software company in China somewhere in Shanghai has created a firmware version for the device.
Yeah.
They have designed the phone. There is a manufacturing company which has just manufactured it. There's a company which is marketing company which is just combining everything and selling it in India, and that worked like charm for China. And for us, we knew that if we genuinely want to get our product out in multiple hands, we have to work with these players. So we thought that we have to start talking to OEMs and start telling them that what you're doing is you're basically just competing with each other on the hardware specs. you know Everyone is talking about a slightly better camera, a slightly better RAM. Those were the ads which we used to see. 12 megapixel camera,
Yeah.
15
Yeah.
megapixel camera, right? So we started talking to OEMs and we said, let's go and talk to Micromax, which was the largest Indian handset company
Right.
those days. We met founders. We convinced them that there is an opportunity for creating a phone for Indian audience.
You had proved it.
And
You had proved that the phones sell when you
yes,
installed it, and you've already
yes,
shown a proof of concept. So now it's very
yeah.
easy for you to go and say it's worked here. How can we then do it across the country, right? There's so many markets that you can then tap,
Yes.
and each of those markets have premium customers who would be still willing to pay a decent amount as a premium, even if you're selling it at a base price. I'm charging you a few hundred rupees, maybe 1,000 rupees premium for the OS itself. You do have a pretty decent pitch there, right?
Yes, and I mean, we had a working product. We showed to them; they liked it. Uh, the challenge for them was they said we do not manufacture phones for different markets. I mean, I will not create a separate phone for Gujarati. I will not create a separate phone for Tamil Nadu. And we want to have a national product, at least 10 languages. So we said, okay, no problem. We scaled it up. We scaled our operations to a level where we started building products across different 10 languages. That was a time when we invested heavily in building local language technologies. We created, regional keyboards. We created regional
Mm.
algorithms around transliteration. We started working on translation. In-house, we started working on building a team of experts for Indian languages. So within 6 months, we actually added 10 languages on our OS. And Micromax said that let's launch one phone with 10 languages. If this works, we will give you other devices. Uh, and to them, our pitch was that this phone is actually for the entry level users. So give us a phone which is less than 10,000. And from the software side, we will take care of things. So at that point of time, they gave us this one device which was launched in market as Unite 3, Micromax Unite 3. It was themed around languages, and one of our major features as part of our OS was swipe to translate. So our idea was that while we are trying to create a product for someone who doesn't know English, the internet ecosystem is still in regional languages, still in English. So if so our operator will send you a message in English, a bank will send you a message in English,
Correct.
and most of the phones which your friends and family members are using, they are also in English. So they will send you messages. They are not using regional keyboards, so they will send you messages in English. So we created this feature where any message which you get, or any WhatsApp message which you get which is in English, you just have to swipe on it. So we build a OS level feature
Oh,
where you
wow.
just swipe on the message, and the message will be translated in your language. So English to Hindi and Hindi to English. So you can write on your phone that I'm, anything like I'm fine. In English, you just swipe, it will be converted into Hindi, so you can read, and then you can write in Hindi, "मैं ठीक हूँ," and it'll just swipe and it'll basically convert into English, and you can. So in terms of even communication, so if someone is sending you a message in English, you can write in Hindi, you can convert it in English, and you can reply. So the conversation can still happen in English. So that was the one of the major features, and they started promoting it. So they said, type karo, swipe karo. So they did a lot of television ads, and internally they gave us a challenge that if within a month the distribution system, if they bought more than 50,000 devices, they will consider this as a success. And the device actually became huge within the first month itself. We did more than 100,000 devices, and so we sold more than 1 million devices for that software, and that gave them a lot of confidence. And from there the journey started with Micromax. We did more than 50 devices with them. We launched the next version of the OS as Unite 4, which had a lot of new features. There was text to speech integrated, where any piece of web article which you are reading in English can be basically read to you in your own languages. So
Oh,
we
wow.
built that technology. We work with Government of India, and their agencies to create this technology. So it was extremely fulfilling experience to create for India, and we were looking at that problem completely differently than most of the people who were trying to solve it, and it worked. And very early, I think within a year, we acquired more than 10 million customers, and first year we worked very closely with Micromax because they wanted to give us a lot of devices. And then very soon, all these handset companies which you talked about, Carbon, Intex, Lava, Lemon Mobile, we launched a phone with Lemon Mobile very early. So these were the handset companies
Other
which
players.
automatically came to us, Cellcon, Swipe, and we created the entire OS product. And with the OS product, our overall product portfolio also changed. So we were doing App Store. So even though when we launched in Gujarat, we just had 250 applications. The first phone we had 5,000 applications. Within a year, we got 50,000 application developers. So we're talking about 50,000 developers who are distributing their applications through our platform, and we are working with them to localize their applications as well as the content which they want to show to the user. So if the user is using application in, let's say, Telugu, uh, or the phone in Telugu, application like WhatsApp, Facebook, or a Flipkart, entire description of that application will be shown to user in their own language, which was
So
our
this,
USP. And yeah.
so I mean, there's obviously an ecosystem being created inside of the OS itself. I have so many questions right now, right? I have questions on, how do you build for so many different languages, so many different uh, firmware? companies, OEMs in this case. And I'm guessing because today I guess it's a little bit more easier and streamlined to create applications for multiple operating systems and versions. I remember just a few years ago, versioning was a huge challenge. So, as a product manager, what what process did you follow? Because I'm unlike say any of these other handset manufacturers in the US or uh, well most handset manufacturers in China, they're not going to play your game, right? You need to be able to work with them. How did how did you go about this process?
Uh, so we started with the idea that we are not a apps company. We are a OS company, and our approach of building the team will be very different than a regular, software company. That is how we started, and very early we started getting on board. Some of the best people who wanted to work in a tech company and wanted to build core products for India. And we told them that the challenges, the problems which we are trying to solve, they might look simple from the outside, but they are huge problems, because right from creating a regional language keyboard to actually building a product which goes out on every single device, answer device, you have to work at the multiple levels. So we had a team which was dedicatedly working on the OS aspect of things. We were working with a lot of uh, what is called as chipset manufacturing companies. So we were working with MediaTek, Qualcomm, Spectrum, and we had a team which was specialized in creating or understanding all the layers of Android uh, development. So it's not just creating the UI layer, but also understanding the deep levels of Android, right at the kernel level to framework level. So we had a team which was dedicatedly working on the OS aspect. Then we built a team which was uh, only working on the language aspect of things, which is just bringing the knowledge of how a consumer who speaks this language,
Hmm.
would want to use the internet if we build products in their own language. So there was a dedicated language team which was built in house, and then I worked and I worked with very smart people and created a very smart team of product managers and designers who wanted to create for India. And one of the things which I think every product manager or product head has to do is have empathy for your own customers. Listen to your customers, understand what their problems are. Spend some time with them. So I'll give you a very simple example. It's not. I will not give you gyan on product methodologies and what we did, but I'll give you a very simple example. See, 2014, 15, 16 was a time when India started using smartphone, and which means that people were buying recharges. People were operators were actually driving the growth for the entire mobile ecosystem. But one of the challenges for India was the talk times, the balances. They had talk time component and they had an internet component, and people are very conscious about how much money you're spending on it. And if you look at Indian consumers, 95% of people are prepaid users.
Right.
So they basically buy a specific talk time and then they use it. There was not a fixed plan. Right now with Jio, things have changed. But at that point of time, it was a very India-centric thing where people actually bought prepaid plans. And unfortunately, they didn't knew how they are actually spending their money. They knew that some amount of money got deducted from their phone, and the balance, for to know the balance you have to type some keywords. So we said, why can't we solve this problem, and why can't we actually give user the information of how much balance he has, right when he wants to use it. And we were a OS company. We said, why can't we give this information to the user in his phone dialer? So if you actually open your phone dialer, you have list of calls made, right? One of the most important things which uh, consumers were actually very specific about was how much money they're spending on these calls.
Right.
So we started basically showing them the money which was deducted for each and every call, and the amount of money which is balanced without dialing those 1 2 3. So right in the if you open the dialer had a information about, in sim 1 you have this much balance, in sim 2 you have this much balance. These are the phone calls which you made, this is the amount which was deducted. And if you want a summary of how you're using your phone, you know we basically gave them option where they could see how much they are, where they are spending their money. Are they spending more money talking to their girlfriends, or is it talking to customers? Are they spending money on data, or they
Yeah.
spending money on which application is spending? Which application is where they are spending money. So that basic information, now if you want to design a analytical product around it and give it to the user, uh, it will look really great. But we said, let's solve for the basic problem. And to that we said, depending on how you're using the phone, can I work with a operator or a mobile wallet to give you the best plan which will work for you. So we partnered with at that point of time Freecharge to launch this product. We called it Recharge 2.0, where right in your phone screen you will know how much you're spending, and moment your balance is about to go down, you with just one click you can do a recharge on Freecharge. And so those were the very India centric problems, and so we spent a lot of time understanding what problems Indian customers are facing based on their behaviors. And these are the things you will not find global companies to even imagine. And when they will look at it, they will say that I have to solve it for the global market first before I solve it for the Indian market. Android cannot launch a feature which is very specific for a specific market. I'm sure they are now doing that, but at that point of time, it was unheard of. Now India is a huge market, so there can be India level customization. But we were one of the early companies which tried doing that.
How were you monetizing an OS? I would imagine, as a mm, handset manufacturer, they have a certain margin that they could part with. Were you finding other ways to monetize inside of the OS itself, inside of the phone, or you basically took a fee from the manufacturer, or was there a combo?
No, I think this was one of the challenges which we faced when we decided to go for a OS led approach. Android was given to all handset manufacturers free of cost. So there was no
Right.
question of. So everyone said that I'm getting Android for free, almost free, and I'm not going to pay you something for a software in which I'm not going to make money unless this thing becomes massively successful and customer will come and start asking for it, which was our vision. We wanted people to start recognizing that now there's a regional operating system, and start talking about it and start asking for it when they go out to buy a phone. But in the early phase, we realized that it has to be a partnership where our handset partners, OEMs, see value in us as a revenue generating partner rather than a cost center. So we propose to them this idea that we will become a platform for content and commerce for the regional users which we want to target. So we will help them come on board on internet, and through that we will create avenues where we will give them content services as well as commerce services, and that will create a lot of opportunity for us to monetize. And if we will start monetizing the user base which we acquire through content and commerce, then we will do a revenue share with them. So most people like that idea, and we told them one of the early products which we have demonstrated monetization is our app store, which is called App Bazaar, which is over a period of time started becoming a preferred user acquisition channel for a lot of app developers, because we were giving them access to this untapped market, and then the users, which are otherwise not able to use Google Play
Hmm.
Store or other avenues to download applications, and which is also regional. And we, as a OS player, as an App Store player, can help you not just with reaching out to the end user, but also help you target to reach out to the right user.
Right.
So that was our value
Right.
proposition to the developers. So very first product which we started monetizing was App Store, where we worked with a lot of app developers. We became a user acquisition channel, and for the inorganic growth which we provided to these users, we were able to monetize.
Okay.
And that is how our OEM partners continued to make money through us while we were providing value to the end user.
That's
So,
incredible.
so
So
that
you moved from an OS, an operating system, to now an app store, and you have 100 million users on the app store itself. And this is
yes.
not only on Samsung, right? Because I don't think Samsung
That's
has
not.
100
I
million
mean,
installs.
Samsung is one of our major, obviously, major partners. We still continue to work with, a lot of Indian handset companies, whatever market share they have, but we continue to power their app stores. At the same time, uh, now we have more than 400,000 developers on our platform. We work with
400,000.
all Yes, we work with almost all top developers globally. They are publishing their applications through us. We also work with small developers. We work with local developers. We still work with application developers from small town in Gujarat or Maharashtra, where they have created applications in regional languages and only want to reach out to Marathi users. Uh, so we do that. We also help a lot of startups to reach out to regional users. So that's the kind of platform which we have now created.
Akash, I probably I can go on because this is such an exciting kind of topic where we talk about what people are consuming, and you're you know catering to an audience that there's so much of focus on right now. I mean, I want to talk to you about Geo and its impact. I want to talk to you about what kind of apps people are using in this segment, how much people are paying. There's just so many questions, but there's only a limited amount of time that we have. So, are there any specific trends that you are seeing that has really surprised you in this audience?
Uh, I won't say surprise, but the way, we've seen the way internet actually evolved for us is very different compared to how it is evolving right now for the new smartphone user base, or the Bharat user base, if I have to say that. Uh, we had our own challenges in terms of network connectivity, so the products were designed very differently. Uh, you know, we used to spend for casual gaming or time pass activities. We used to spend more time on games. Uh, Bharat is also spending a lot of time on games, but they're also doing a lot of content consumption, which is why short video applications are huge. Uh, YouTube is one of the biggest applications, which is the biggest service in terms of the app,
Hmm.
which takes or which most time spent is actually on YouTube. This is my learning um, from the OS time, but we continue to see that YouTube is, which means that video space or the content space is something which will be huge in Bharat. That is the reason why education companies, especially in the video segment, will have a lot of traction in the coming days. We can see why almost everyone is investing in that. Plus, now people are expecting more from their handsets. So it will help the entire industry create high performing handsets. software developers will have to start thinking that the user which the new smartphone user is, it's different. You have to cater to their needs. So product management will be slightly different. Even though the methodologies or the frameworks will be same, you will still have to spend time talking to customers, understanding them, using some of the techniques which are standard. But uh, the biases which we usually bring in while designing the product will have to be broken.
All these apps today are trying to control your attention, right? Ultimately, it's
Yes.
your attention. They are all now fighting for attention. Be it YouTube, Insta, WhatsApp. It is saying, okay, open me and use me for 100 things. And I
Yeah,
think
and the distraction
yeah,
level is also, right now, that if you're not able to satisfy users' intent, or are not able to engage with the user will just jump, or uninstall it, which is why the retention rates are very low for most of the applications.
is that the same on
Not
your store as well?
Yeah, I
Retention
mean,
rates.
so
What?
once the
Yeah.
user has downloaded the application, spend time with the application. Now it's over to the application developers to engage with the developers. So our task is to get you find the right application, and once you install it, and so most of the time we when especially when we actually help our developers acquire a user, we are seeing good KPI numbers which we are delivering to them. But if I mean, we've had past issues where even though we were helping application developers acquire users, get them the initial traction, they were not able to retain the user, uh,
Hmm.
and that was primarily because their app was not performing. And at some point of time, when we were having this discussion that why the retention is so low, we spent time looking at their application. We told them that you are doing these things wrong. You're serving this customer, and you're actually not solving the problem for him.
You're
So
getting into consulting. That's
I mean,
running beyond an app store.
I mean, that's just not something which we do as a service, but something,
Sure.
if I mean, we started interacting on one of the product ideas. I mean, you and me very early, on this very good concept, right? So
Yeah.
the idea was at that point of time, it was not to get into some kind of contract, but just to help each other build that beautiful product.
Absolutely. No, I still feel that idea is doable and probably has more value today than it was 3-4 years ago when we
Yeah,
spoke last.
especially for Bharat, especially when we talk vernacular. And
Yeah.
we are the company which started working on this
Hmm.
concept of vernacular and solving for India in 2013.
Right.
Most companies are now talking about it. Maybe we are always ahead of the curve, but
You're ahead of
uh,
the time. Yeah. Yeah. Ahead of the curve.
now I see there's a lot of lip service being done on the on being vernacular or being Indian also. People are just giving a menu which has 8 to 12 Indian languages, but are actually not doing more than that. They're not building technologies or algorithms
True.
in Indian languages. And every single thing which you have in English, like auto search or word suggestions. Uh, I'm giving you very simple examples. Things, very smaller things which help you use your phone or internet.
True.
Uh, those are not available for people in Indian languages. Like
Hmm.
if someone doesn't know English, and if you haven't solved creating a Hindi keyboard or a regional keyboard, uh, either through creating a better user experience on the device by typing or through voice, then we're not solving for the real problems. Luckily, companies like Google, Microsoft, now Geo are trying to solve these problems.
Right.
Uh, but
Investing
I
heavily.
think even young startups have to take up some of these problems and solve for them.
Akash, has been super enlightening. Are you hiring at this moment?
We will be open to talk to people, you know, uh, to come and join our team. So we have some open positions, but otherwise also if there are people who feel they can add value in the mission which we are working on, we are happy to talk to them, and we will get them on board if we are on the same wavelength, and if we feel together we can create valuable products.
Fantastic. I'm going to leave your details wherever I put up this podcast. And hey, Akash, thanks so much for your time. This has been awesome. Continue the good work.
Thank you, Varun. It was great chatting with you. I will, continue to listen to some of these stories which you publish, and hope that we meet soon after all of this is done, and see how we can revive the product which we were talking about.
Akash, I have a lot more ideas for you, but I'm going to take this up on you. Stay tuned for a lot more amazing entrepreneurs like Akash to come and share their learnings.